Hey guys, how we doing and how we feeling today? I'm Emilio Fernandez and welcome back to the Pop and Bop podcast. Now, on this episode, we're going to talk about and review Imagine Dragons' sixth studio album titled Loom. Now, in case you don't know who Imagine Dragons is, well, let me tell you. This band is arguably best known for their Billboard Hot 100 Top 5 smash hits, Believer and Thunder. Now, this album, I would say, is mainly a blend of two genres, which are pop rock and alternative. Prior to the album release, we had three singles, which were Eyes Closed, Nice to Meet You, and Wake Up. Now, onto the album itself. So, the album is 9 songs long and it's under half an hour long. So, it's on the shorter side of a listening session, definitely. Now, how good the album actually is, well, we're going to discuss that shortly. So, we start with the first track, Wake Up, the first of my highlights on the album. This is the third single, as I already said. This is a strong opening track. Dance, and well, we're going to clarify this so you understand. Dan Reynolds is the lead vocalist of this band. So, from now on, I'm just going to mention him because he is the one who gives life to these songs with his vocals. So, okay. Dan's vivid vocals catch the listener's attention from the get-go. The instrumentation is stellar here. And in this song, sorry, Dan tells someone to come to their senses and realize they're guilty of something, as everyone's coming for them. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty interesting way to start the album because I don't know, I would have expected something more personal from Dan or from any of his bandmates, but we got this. But as I said, it's a pretty strong song nonetheless. And it's pretty straightforward. Like Dan is telling someone like you need to wake up, you need to get snap back into reality because you did this, you're guilty of this, and people are after you. So you got to do something about it instead of just like pretending like it didn't happen, like it doesn't exist. And yeah, I mean, this is a pretty, run of the mill thing that happens because someone does something, they're guilty of it, and eventually the consequences are going to come. Like, and in the meanwhile, that thing that they did that they're guilty of, it's eating them up inside. Now, we move on to track number 2, Nice to Meet You. This is a second single, as I already said. This is a pretty feel good type of song, and its sound really exemplifies that. The additional vocals thrown in all throughout the song aren't really needed, and from what I gathered, they are female vocals, and that has nothing to do with them being like unneeded here. It's just that it's kind of like extra, like they don't really have a place here. We could have done without them. And in this song, Dan talks about dating someone and having to deal with one of that girl's friends and their disapproval of the relationship. He feels as if he's not only dating this person, but by extension, her friends as well. He firmly believes that he doesn't have to actually like all of this girl's friends just because they're dating. And this is a pretty common thing that happens, obviously. I mean, when you start dating someone, eventually you're going to meet their friends. Obviously, you hope that they all like you, but it can happen. It's pretty common that not everyone of their friends are going to like you. And you just have to deal with that. You just have to. And yeah, it does feel like you're dating the friends as well. But yeah, I mean, you're not gonna be likable to everyone, so you just have to make the best of it. Now, track number 3, Eyes Closed, another one of my highlights. This is a lead single, as I already said. Dan's distorted vocals as the song starts will naturally catch the listener off guard, and this goes on all throughout the song. But with the additional listens, the listener will get used to it and find it does fit with this track. Both the production and instrumentation give off a dark sound, which is further cemented by Dan's vocals. And I would say this is kind of new territory for uncharted territory for Imagine Dragons. So it's always interesting to see an artist or a group, a band venture into new type of sounds. One of the strongest tracks on the album, without a doubt. And in this song, Dan talks about bringing light into the darkness, and having gone through this process in the past, he can do it effortlessly. So this song can, you can interpret it by relating it to depression, dealing with depression that a lot of people go through, obviously, uh, or just simply like a slump in the road, a little bump in the road that you like get stuck for a while, but may not be something so severe as depression, but it can be just like a temporary, a momentary, um, yeah, like just that pitfall. Now, well, and before I move on to the next song, yes, everything that I said. And also, I like that the song is called Eyes Closed because Dan is basically saying, like, I've gone through this process before. By now, I can do this with my eyes closed, which is something that he repeats in the song. And it really resonated with me. Now, track number 4, Take Me to the Beach. Dan's vocal delivery here makes him sound quite commanding. And in this song, Dan talks about wanting to escape his reality, even if it's just for a little while, away from all the negativity and toxicity around him. So, yeah, I mean, this song is pretty, I was going to say straightforward, but not necessarily. Like, with it being called Take Me to the Beach, it's kind of um, like metaphoric. So, but yeah, like, it doesn't take a lot to understand that with him saying take me to the beach, he's like, okay, I need to just go unwind somewhere, like somewhere that is pretty relaxing and peaceful, like the beach. And a lot of people do that, like myself included. I feel I can do this at a beach. So yeah, like you just want to go to that place that you have that like liberates you, even just even if it's just for a little while, as I said with the song. Even if it's just that, you go there and you just can forget about pretty rough things that are going on in your life, and like the bad vibes and whatnot. Now, track number 5, In Your Corner. Both the production and instrumentation give this track a softer feel and sound. And in this song, Dan talks about being very loyal to your partner, even if they have a bad tendency of hurting you. So, this is also a pretty relatable song because a lot of people can go through this. Like, you, if you're a very loyal person, especially in love, like if you have such an emotional endurance and resilience, you find yourself forgiving even the worst of things. Like you may even forgive and forget pretty harsh things that your partner does to you. as long as that means that they're still going to be around you, you know? Now, track number 6, Gods Don't Pray, another one of my highlights. By far the strongest track on the album, and it has the potential to be pushed as a single. Like I really, this album hasn't had a hit as of yet, and this album was released just over a month ago. Um, and well, today, as I'm recording this, it's the 30th of July of 2024. So yeah, this album is over a month old. The lead single Eyes Closed was released, I believe, around March. No, it was April, beginning of April, and that song is the one that has the most streams on Spotify. But even that song wasn't a hit. Like it was kind of a flop. So I believe this song, Gods Don't Pray, really has the potential to be the first, if not the only hit of this era. And like I really wanted to be the case because like for this album to have a hit, at least one, because Imagine Dragons really has um that power, you know, like they are known to have at least one like major hit each era. So yeah, it would be nice for that to happen. Dan's vocals are pretty strong here. And in this song, Dan talks about how people of high power or fame really shouldn't be trusted because of what they go through to attain such a position, as the recurring scrutiny that comes packaged with the life in the public eye can easily distort a person's viewpoint on life. So this album's this song's title is pretty interesting, Gods Don't Pray, and that really goes along nicely with what Dan is saying here about like relating gods to celebrities like himself and the band. um and with him being a celebrity, like, and making this statement, it's pretty bold because he's like including himself in this discussion about what I just said. Like, people really shouldn't romanticize or view celebrities as, you know, gods, or like people that are like unattainable, like people that are so above everything. Like, it really shouldn't be that way. So he's right. Um, because yeah, I mean, being that famous comes with a heavy price. You know, like we all know this by now. Like, it really isn't all that to be that level of famous, or even famous at all, because you sacrifice your personal life for that. And what good does that do if you're not able to like enjoy the little things? Because like even the little things can be documented. Now, track number 7, Don't Forget Me, the last of my highlights on the album, the saddest song on the album. And in this song, Dan holds on to his ex and hopes she doesn't ever forget him, as he reminisces on the special memories they created together. So yeah, for me, this song was the saddest one on the album, because not only does the title suggest that, but yeah, I mean, like, we can all go through this. Like, if you have an ex, and you still love them, you don't want, like, in the case that you still have feelings for them, like, you really obviously don't want to forget them, and especially you don't want them to forget you. So all you can do is just hold on to the memories you created together with that person, and hope that they won't ever forget you. Like, that you still have a special, if not some place in their mind. Now, track number 8, Kid. one of the more oriented tracks on the album. And in this song, Dan tells someone, apparently younger, to get their shit together as they are destined for great things in the future. So, pretty interesting. Sorry, pretty. Well, yeah, it's an interesting song, but especially a pretty straightforward song because, yeah, I mean, it's pretty plain and simple. Dan is like, Dan, who's 36, I believe, no, 37. Yeah, he's 37. He is using, like, taking all the things he knows, all the wisdom, and he's like imparting that to the younger generation. Like, if you know, if that means aspiring young artists, then he's telling those people that, like, hey, get your shit together because this is not for everyone. Or in the general sense, it can be like, yeah, like we all need to get their we all need to get our shit together. So yeah, it's a pretty like clear message. Now we move on to the final track on the album, track number 9, Fire in These Hills, sorry. This track sounds like a proper conclusion, but other than that, it's not a very strong closing track. Dan's vocals have a sad undertone to them, something that only occurred with this closing track. The weakest track on the album, and in this song, Dan opens up about his current relationship. He's doubtful, thinking that he's not strong enough, guilty about everything he has done wrong in the relationship, and knows for a fact that his girlfriend is thinking about all of that too. It's a strained relationship, and Dan is losing hope about it surviving, staying up at night, drinking his sorrows away, thinking he got nothing without her, and even fearing that he might die alone. But to his dismay and surprise, she's still with him. So, easily, this song is the saddest, just after Don't Forget Me, or it could be on the same level of sadness. It's up to you to decide. But yeah, like, Fire in These Hills, it's a pretty interesting title, obviously, for a song. And in this case, like, it's talking about, like, in general terms, it can talk about, like, yeah, there's this situation um, with this person, and it can also be about a friendship or about a family member. I don't know, like any kind of relationship. So there's fire here. Like, there's um, things are complicated. So you like, but obviously Dan in this case is being pretty dramatic. Like, yes, it can happen to any of us, but he's being pretty dramatic. Like, he shouldn't have to like drink his sorrows away, and he shouldn't have to fear that he might die alone, because, well, I know that they say that we all die alone, but in this case, like, he shouldn't be pessimistic about, like, saying, like, if he doesn't have this person in his life, like, he'll have nothing, because you can't really view life like that. Like, there's always life after losing someone. So you shouldn't have to depend on one single person for your happiness and for your sanity. So, yeah, that's the album. Overall, this is a solid pop album. The production is pretty consistent all throughout. Dan's vocal performance in this album is superb. This is an improvement from their previous album, Mercury Acts 1 and 2, but overall, their second weakest album. Now, when comparing this album to the rest of Imagine Dragons' discography, do I consider this to be their best album yet? Hard no. This is not their best album. As I said, I consider it to be the second weakest album overall. I strongly consider that Evolve, their third studio album, is their best album to date. Now, we're going to briefly go over their discography. So, they had, I believe, well, they had several EPs before their big debut album, but we're just going to focus on the studio albums. So, we have their debut album, Night Visions, which was an excellent debut album. It was an excellent way. Like, yes, as I said, they had EPs previously, but this was when I believe they really popped off. And in this album, we had hits like Demons and Radioactive. Then we have their second album, Smoke and Mirrors, an incredible sophomore album that has hits like I'm So Sorry. Then we have Evolve, which I already mentioned. This, not only that it's their best album to date, but at this point in their discography, the band reached a new peak with it being their third album. And as I said at the beginning, this album has their two biggest hits, which are Believer and Thunder. Then we have their fourth album, Origins. This fourth, sorry, this fourth album doesn't quite match the previous album's level, but still has some amazing tracks that are among the band's heavy hitters, such as Natural. Then we have their fifth album, Mercury Acts 1 and 2, which I already mentioned as well. This fifth album is solid in the first act, and the first act contains their smash hits Enemy with Jid, but falls flat on the second act. And the second act has their smash hit Bones. And that brings us to the sixth album, Loom, which we just reviewed. Now, what score do I give Loom? I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now, before I go, make sure to follow Pop and Bop on social media for more content. It's basically Pop and Bop on all social media. And yeah, guys, that was my review for Loom by Imagine Dragons. This has been Pop and Bop. I'm Emil Fernandez. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time when we sit down and review Normani's debut studio album, Dopamine. Catch you next time.